Spencer. Good morning. Happy Monday and welcome to SJU. Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to have you here with us. Spencer Gilbert is here and he is on fire today. I was just noticing it in our pre-show talk. He was like full of the quips, of the insights. Like, I just think you need to keep your eye on Spencer today because he's the one really going to be driving this show, other than Danielle Radford, who's also, I think, on fire today. Is that right, Danielle?
I might be fostering a cat. Real excited.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear that news.
Excited.
Also joined by us, as always, is Joe Starr, and Sarah is here, taking a dominant position today, and I think getting closer and closer to the impending humicide.
She's tired of me not liking the prequels, and she's going to make sure I put some respect on their name today, Ruff.
And I can't blame Sarah, because not unlike Sarah, I think that the prequels are a favorite for a lot of our fans. So we're going to just share some of that Star Wars love today because we can. Largely, it's just because we can. The rules are there are no rules. And so I am going to start with you, Spencer Gilbert, picking one of my favorite scenes in the franchise.
Oh, all right. Yeah, let's just jump right in. Y'all seen that Empire Strikes Back movie? It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
That's one of the better Star Wars. But I want to call out the scene of Han and Leia at Echo Base, flirt fighting, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
And it's for a reason that I think that the Star Wars movies don't, I think deservedly don't get a lot of love, because often they don't have the space to do it, and that's good acting. This is I tend to think of actors as just kind of like meat puppets that just repeat the words other people said, but this
is not what they do at all.
Exactly. This proves me wrong, that they really elevate they elevate the material, and the stuff that, like, you can just see just the energy on each other's faces can speak so much volumes between Han and Leia, and how they're, like I said, they're flirting, but they're fighting. They clearly love each other. Han's trying to get it out of her. They both want to admit that they're attracted to each other. They just can't because of their position and the situation of the war that they're in. And it's just beautiful. Like the way he throws that point at her, and the way she's standoffish, but she's playing dumb, like she's pretending she doesn't know what he talks about, but they both know what they're talking about. Yeah. And it's just it's a beautiful acting job. And I think that a lot of Star Wars, the first movie and certainly the new trilogy, like, it moves so fast that there isn't even really time to have like a back and forth beyond like 2 sentences, so that you get the fact that this movie not opens, but near the beginning of the movie, you get a real meaty scene between two people that's not about, blowing up the space ball, is one of my favorite Star Wars moments.
In the middle of an evacuation too. I love it. Like, so many like little stakes and urgency to it.
Mm-hmm. I just will note that it is also slightly about blowing up the space ball. My only other thought on this is that, not unlike Hitchcock, Spencer Gilbert and Lucas wants actors to be automatons that just repeat lines exactly like you want them to, but that is not what they do. In fact, I think one of the beautiful things, and why this is one of the most iconic relationships on screen, at me if you will, is because of what they were respectively bringing to the roles. They really, really, really took a lot of agency in the creation of, I'm talking about Carrie Fisher, obviously, and Harrison Ford, in the creation of Han and Leia, respectively. And I think brought a lot more than was initially, we all know, brought a lot more than was initially on the page. I love every scene with the two of them. This is one of my favorite relationships in cinema, as I mentioned. And they also, both of them, have a pretty significant arc over the course of the series, together and separately. There's a little bit of a loss with Leia, in my mind, that they tried to make up for in these last few movies. But aside from, she was trained her whole life to lead. Why are you not training her and instead the farm boy? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Not a lot of logic to it, Yoda. Danielle, bring it home, woman.
I co-sign everything like that. The chemistry, man, I love chemistry. So for mine, I am going with, it is a pre-something. It's not one of the prequels. That moment in Rogue One at the very end when Darth Vader comes in and it suddenly becomes a like horror movie. That's one of my favorite scenes in all of it. And it's crazy because obviously, like, that one kind of comes in towards the end of that. I don't know what's happening. What did I?
The weird image.
That same image popped up during our Man of Steel review. What's going on there?
Oh, I'm doing some subliminal
the screensaver.
stuff. Don't worry about it, guys.
Is this going to become like a Screen Life horror movie any minute now? Yes. Danielle, save us from the demons.
But, I can't, because this is him being a demon. Like, that's one of the great things about that hallway, that particular scene is it is him stalking his prey. And yeah, you get to see how like evil Darth Vader is in a way that feels very safe for all ages, safe for kids. Like you feel, oh man, he chokes people, but you don't necessarily feel like that feeling of real dread. And when you watch him in that, you're like, oh, he's terrifying. Like, this is a scary, scary person. And it's not just, like the force choking and all that stuff. Like, you're watching people react to him. And then you're watching the fact that like all of these people, none of them can do anything while they are being stalked by this literal demon man with mind powers. And far and away for me, the best scene in Rogue One. I think far and away for me, possibly my favorite scene in the last, not counting, I have a lot of ones that I really love about in The Mandalorian, but probably my favorite scene in the last bit of these, of the newer Star Warses. And it's really just because they were so effectively able to convey that sense of dread and otherworldliness about Darth Vader that I think sometimes, particularly as the movies have gone on and as we've been, watching Star Wars stuff for 40 years or whatever, we kind of miss. And that went back to being like, oh, he's a scary devil man. He is terrifying. Yeah. So yeah, that's my.
They do a really good job too at because I feel like there was probably a temptation to make that like a little flippy and a little like, he's swinging around on a ladder fighting dudes like Jackie Chan. But I think they did a really nice job being like, okay, this Nightmare guy is the same Nightmare guy who's not doing quite as much in A New Hope aside from just like lifting a dude and tossing him and stuff like that. Just because maybe it's a matter of urgency where it's like, okay, I've got to turn it on right now. Whereas in A New Hope, he never really has to. I appreciated that about it.
And it feels so brutal. And that moment where you see like, everything crazy is happening and there's smoke and everything. And you just see like zoom and he lights up and everything's red. It's like, oh, like this isn't like, it made me feel things. I like when a Star Wars makes me actually feel I felt, because one of those things is we don't know any of those characters either. So it doesn't have the baggage of like, oh, I know that this particular like helmet wearing dude is going to show up in New Hope. We don't know anything about them. He could have murdered them. And he did. He murdered basically all of them. And we was able to create that suspense because none of these people were guaranteed to live. So.
Joe Star.
He's a scary dude.
He is a scary dude, but he's also, well, we'll get to mine in a minute.
I like that, Vader. It was the cinema version of like when you're playing Battlefront or like the original Battlefront and then Vader would drop in for
power up
and you just had to run for your life.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the new trilogy for one of my favorite lightsaber fights that I like more and more every time I watch it. And that's Kylo fighting Finn and Rey at the end of Force Awakens. I really, really like this fight and the story they're telling in it. For what the snow setting is so nice. It's like a great like lone wolf and cub kind of sort of doom snow samurai setting, which was very smart of J.J. Abrams to kind of go back to what Star Wars is aping in the first place. And then I love the story of the fight. Like, they think they have a chance because Kylo's clearly injured. He's like sweating. He's trying desperately to like stand because he just took a shot from that Wookiee crossbow that the movie spent the entire runtime telling you was horribly dangerous, and they fight for their lives the whole time. I know when people walked out of the movie, they were like, they just beat the crap out of Kylo at the end, but they really don't. Like, he just destroys Finn. Like, he's toying with him. Finn's just desperately trying to stay alive and defend his friend, no training, and he gets one lucky hit in, and then Kylo's like, oh, die, and, slashes him across the back. It's great. And then even once you get that cool reveal with the lightsaber, with Rey grabbing it, you get the big heroic moment, and John Williams goes to work and starts blending the old Jedi themes with Rey's theme. It's one of my favorite pieces of music in probably all 9 movies. Just the way they build and play with each other, it's really cool. She gets her ass handed to her as well. It's pure defense. It's pure just like kind of running for her life. And until she has her like use the Force, Luke moment, and gets really lucky. She's on the defense the whole time. And then something I noticed rewatching it at the end, you don't get the chance to see if she's going to kill the guy or walk away or do the right thing, because she definitely seems like she's going to murder him. She's standing over him. She's pissed. She's angry. She's like breathing really hard. Like it's a full on give in to your hate moment. And the planet falls apart around them. And it sort of robs her of the chance to go good or go bad. And like, look, I don't like the Palpatine reveal, but this is a really interesting sort of foreshadowing moment and an opportunity for the audience to kind of wonder what kind of person she's going to become. I think it's a really super underrated fight.
Awesome.
Look at all that steam. Yeah. Lightsabers and snow melting the snow. Oh, steam's cool.
Steam, man.
And she's mad. Steam coming out of her ears too. Right. She is, and justifiably, by the way, really, really mad. It's not like let your unjustified hate flow through you.
New dad just got murdered.
Yeah.
And I love Kylo still won't even call. He's just like Han Solo. Like it's a great moment.
So speaking of great moments, I think there's a million great lightsaber fights throughout Star Wars, whether it's the shows or in the movies. I mean, I think we're probably the chat, and we'll go to Ryan in a little bit. We'll be talking about Darth Maul, which is a great fight. I'm picking a moment that in a sense is like incredibly obvious, but if we take ourselves back in time, and if we put ourselves in the context of sitting in that theater and having this moment unfold for us, I really think it's worth bringing up, which is just the death of Darth Vader, the death of Anakin, because it's been so earned over the course of these three movies. And what we have to remember is when Lucas made Star Wars, he didn't know that it was going to be the phenomenal success that it was. No one did. I think Carrie Fisher talks about, she brought her brother to the screening to this B movie she was in, and they were kind of in the back like, oh God, it's this B movie that I'm in, this weird space movie that I'm in. And then it became what it was. And if we think about the idea that he was able to architect, or in the team, the creative team was able to architect within that, this actual journey for Luke, where he really did have to confront the things about him that were angry, that were childish, that were petty and small. The part of him that has thought of this, his father in this heroic light, and Vader quite the opposite, and then had to marry those two things together by the end of the movie. And that Vader had to come back to himself by the end of the movie, a himself that at the time, nobody knew who he was. You had just heard this legend of the greatest Jedi ever, who then ended up being this monster. And we didn't know why, so we were able to apply the audience was able to apply all of our own perspective to that, and what might make us become a monster, and how easily Luke could have gone in that direction, but didn't. So I think it's a really, really, really beautiful unmasking, and that the monster beneath is revealed. And it's not that subtle. It's fairly on the nose. But Star Wars isn't that subtle. It's fairly on the nose, but I still think it works as a myth. And I think it's why those three are still my favorite. It's why that journey is still my favorite. It's why I love why didn't I pick Luke in the cave? That's actually my favorite moment in Star Wars. Luke in the cave is like one of my favorite moments in cinema, because it's what we all do. It's what we all do, and not one time, every day, every choice, every moment. You have that option.
Every day, go into that tree.
Go to that tree. Choose the light side of yourself or the dark side of yourself, and you got to cut off some heads.
I love the unmasking of Vader too. Jack Shipley's in the chat agreeing with you. He loves that scene, the final sort of sequence. I've always loved the visual of Luke dragging him and Imperials just running around, like fully seeing that like their boss is lying dead on the ground or dying, and just not caring is always been like a really striking image to me too. So just noting that I screwed up by not picking Luke in the cage. That's my actual favorite moment in the entire franchise. But anyway, onward. Joestar is going to thank the people. I will, because despite all my rage, I am still just a Luke in a cave.
Yes.
Despite all these raves. Hey guys. Thanks for watching.
Snaps for Joe.
I hope you're enjoying just a nice, easy Monday of waxing poetic about Star Wars. we are. And I think everybody deserves a moment to breathe for a second and just talk about space swords and wizards and planes. So thanks for watching the show. Make sure you hit like, hit subscribe, hit that bell. We really appreciate it. We have got links and resources, just like we did last week, in the description for ways that you can participate in Black Lives Matter. Make sure you take action, make your voice heard. We've got some cool stuff coming up next week. Do we ever tease for honest trailers anymore, Spencer?
We could.
Before next week's stuff.
We have this week's stuff.
This week's stuff. So we have Rob Paulson coming for a Hey Fandom this Tuesday, right after SJU at noon, and Danielle is going to be hosting that. So it's going to be a great thing that you guys should watch. There is an honest trailer coming out tomorrow, of course, at 10 a.m., but millions of people are going to watch that. So we encourage you to do the same thing. And then after that, at the same time as that, a lot of times being the boss just means you're solving problems every 30 seconds all day long, and it's exhausting. But every once in a while, it means that you can force a bunch of people to make a video about a random movie that you and a bunch of other people like. So look forward to Joe Starr, Spencer Gilbert, and myself outlining the 100 reasons why The Fifth Element is better than you remember. And you remember that it's great.
Yeah. So and now you've got an honest trailer tease. I can't think of a better honest trailer tease than that essay. So yeah, got all that going. And also, yeah, make sure you check out the Rob Paulson Hey Fandom. He's such a blast. If you've never watched an interview with him or anything like that, he's so fun. And he loves connecting with fans. And so it's going to be super fun. So make sure you get in there, ask your questions. He's game to have a good time. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we're going to go on to some more of our favorite moments shortly.
He once did the Independence Day speech as Pinky for us.
Damn, yeah, that's pretty.
Well, speaking of people and lots of words to say, Joe Starr, we're going to go to Ryan, who's going to tell us what we're hearing from the chat.
Hey, lots of picks for favorite Star Wars moments from the chats. I'll just run through a bunch here and let you guys react to them. At K. Walton says, Star Wars A New Hope, Luke's trench run. I mean, that's a classic one. At Hooldy or Holdy, well, Duel of Fates is one of the greatest things Star Wars gave us. Mm-hmm. So a little bit of Phantom Menace love. At Mara Me of the prequels.
That's a great scene. The door opening in Darth Maul. I can't pretend like I don't like that scene.
Yeah. Of the prequels, I love Phantom Menace because of the pod race and the lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan and Maul scenes. At Jorge Ramirez says Yoda's speech about the Force is the best. I guess maybe that's The Last Jedi or Empire or any of the other times he talks. But anyway,
it's definitely his favorite topic.
Yep.
Yeah, he loves the Force. It's like, we get it, the Force.
Gotta shut up about the Force and Applebee's.
And at Lizzie Booth agrees with Joe. Mine is in episode 7, the saber flying past Kylo into Rey's hand. Also,
I got you.
Love. And at Eunice Santana giving some "There Is Another" love. Right when with the red light, I thought that's a crazy shot when that light comes on from the ship and stuff. So I agree. She also likes the throne room and Luke looking at the twin suns.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ryan. Keep in that chat. We're going to go to a couple more our favorite things right now. Danielle Radford, what do you got?
All right. So for my other favorite thing, and this is another one where it seems very basic B, but I love it for a lot of different reasons, and that is the moment in Jedi when Leia kills Jabba the Hutt. And it's such a great scene for like a lot of different reasons. Obviously, a big thing is you have Leia, who has been such a powerful leader and someone who does have so much agency and is so important and so in charge. And so to see her be turned into like this gross sex object, which by the way, you like what you like, but I always find it very interesting when people really get into Slave Leia, because I'm like, you understand the point of Slave Leia was to break down this powerful woman and make her feel like she's only about her body. That's why it's weird. And that's why when she straight up mama murders Jabba, you feel really good about it because she's finally taking her power back after it had been taken from her. And it's funny because she goes from being the least sexualized she is in the entire series to the most sexualized someone has been in a fantasy movie in a while, or at least like a main character like that. And so, yeah, that is a moment that I love, and I love it for like very specifically because that is the moment where you watch Leia take her power back after having been reduced to just a chick in a gold bikini, which again, you guys dress up however you like. Like, I'm not, no shamesies here. I just always find it very interesting when so many people are like, yeah, my favorite Leia is Slave Leia. It's like the one that doesn't, okay. Like, she's the one that's literally the whole point is for her to be objectified to make her feel like crap, and like she's not like
held against her will.
Yeah, and is also being held against her will, and like the entire point is that she's then you take someone strong and you break them down. All right, guys, I see what you're into. That's fine.
I can think of plenty other times I thought Princess Leia was hot as hell.
There also weren't many options for women in the original trilogy. It was her or Moff Tarkin. Not Moff Tarkin. What's her name?
Mon Mothma.
Mon Mothma, yeah. Also Moff Tarkin. Do you?
No more gender swapping Star Wars characters, Spencer.
Said, no shamesies here, man. You like what you like. But,
everybody's name in Star Wars is some variation on Moff Monma.
Although Grand Moff Tarkin would have been so much scarier as like a creepy old
in a gold bikini.
As a creepy old British, like as a Nanny McPhee, like crazy, like yeah, that would have been much scarier than what we got.
Danielle, did you ask your mom when Leia was going to be a Jedi?
No. So I think I've said this. I'm such a weirdo. I didn't see these until much later in my life. I did not watch these as a kid at all. I don't think I saw most of, like, it was around because it was omnipresent. So like everyone knows about it, but I don't think I actually sat down and like watched the trilogy until I was like a teenager.
Oh, okay. So I did, and she lied to me.
Oh.
And she was like, "Oh, that's coming in the next movie."
Yeah.
Wow. TikTok.
So I've been waiting a minute here, Mom. Tied into your scene, your selection is Joe's.
Oh yeah. My other one, and my honorable. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about honorable mentions in a second, so I don't need to say that yet. My other one is rescuing Leia from the detention block in A New Hope. It's such a fun sequence. Just the opening of it with the guard just like, where are you taking this thing? And he just like puts so much stank on it, and it's so good. And you're immediately just like, oh, I want Chewbacca to break you in half, and he does. And just Luke and Han running around going, look out, he's loose, I'll try to get him, while they're just shooting stormtroopers is so fun, and just like the chaos of it. And you have all this momentum and dramatic tension, and again, John Williams is in the driver's seat with the score picking back up, because you're like, oh crap, Luke, we're gonna have company, like everybody's screwed, and they better get that princess fast. And then the door opens and she's lying there, and all of a sudden just the whole world stops. It's such a well done moment, and then you sort of have Princess Leia sort of like lying there, and Luke just goes, and and the world just stops for just a moment, because you have this beautiful damsel in distress, and then immediately Carrie Fisher breaks that trope into 1,000 pieces and just sits up and negs the guy, and then just rips on the rescue attempt for like the rest of the time, like, this is some rescue, like someone's got to get us out of here, and it's just so that little sequence in the hallway, like watching that trio come together and gel and form and tell you everything you need to know about how the three of them are going to interact until forever, on some base level, is so cool. But yeah, just specifically that moment of just like, we're building up the tension, and then Carrie Fisher just goes, nope, hold. It's a great moment.
So we're going to get 2 more scenes in here, and then we'll go back to the chat to see what we forgot. I'm sure we forgot lots of stuff, or we just didn't mention some things that we also love. So we want to hear from you. Ryan, take a look out for that. I can't express enough how much Leia as a character meant to me in my life. Like 3 movies that I watched it over and over and over and again as a kid were, so Carrie Fisher specifically, because one was the Blues Brothers. The other was the Star Wars trilogy. and 2001, which anyway, probably something to do with a history with hallucinogens. But my point is this. You guys show such great Leia scenes. There's, of course, I Love You, I know, but she just as a character, I think, was such an incredible and rare character, particularly for that day. So if you guys have favorite Leia moments, let us know. But if you have other favorite moments from the franchise, we want to hear about that. There's certainly the animated series that some folks are probably pulling from as well. But Spencer has chosen an iconic moment with two of the better.
Sure. Yeah, not a Leia scene, but we're back to the original trilogy and back to Empire. I know it's boring, but it's still the best one. What's that?
Why is it boring?
It's just boring. It's like saying chocolate chip cookies are good. Like everyone, it's non-controversial to the point of boredom. It's and also this scene again, like I think as time passes we take this for granted. None of this was a given. It's Yoda's reveal of who he is to Luke in his little hut. I know that this is it is a some might say stolen, others might say lifted or inspired from Seven Samurai. With the it's actually like kind of a classic film move of like, you think the old guy's bumbling, oh nope, he's a badass. But I think that this is, if you want to talk about subverting of expectations, this is it done right. He's this mythical Jedi master, and all he's been doing is Frank Oz, dicking around in Luke's camp and spilling his beans and stuff like that.
Your beans I have.
I got your beans. Also, it lets you know how over the top they took his sentence structure in the prequels, because he has some prepositions in some weird places, but mostly he's just speaking straightforward in this scene. So they've really exaggerated Yoda to the point of parody in the prequels and sequels.
Maybe his time in isolation straightened out his speech syntax.
He didn't. That means he did a reverse Flanders, where he became better as he went along.
God damn it, you guys remind me of my favorite tweet of all time, and it's graphic, but I'm just going to have to say it now because I thought about it. It's like, what if when Yoda nut, he starts speaking normal or something? Anyways, beyond that,
I also like the idea that you just said that because something was in our brains, we would have to say it out loud, which is pretty true.
I can support that. I have spent 2 hours in silence in a room working with him, and then he has started laughing, and then we've been like, what? And he's like, I remembered the tweet.
Yeah. Kept laughing today. This is from Mike Ginn. Keep laughing today, thinking about Yoda nutting for the first time in 500 years, and immediately he starts talking regular again.
I love that you have it bookmarked. I love it so much.
Anyways, he also his Yoda's ability to turn from this bumbling kind of mercurial character. He's been silly and goofy, but it's silly and goofy with a purpose. He's there to test Luke because he thinks Luke is too impatient. He's too headstrong. He's not ready for this. So his silliness is poking him. Like it's not just silliness for the sake of silliness. Mm-hmm. There's a method to it. And then so when he reveals himself to by channeling Obi-Wan Kenobi and be like, he's not ready. It's such a woof. It's such a gut punch. And then the final line, Frank Oz, man, delivering the "You will be." You will be. That'll put some chill down your spine, because you've just had this movie-wise. You've had this kind of like break from the pace and the tension of the beginning of Empire and all the way back to New Hope. It's moved, and finally, like, just kind of hanging out in this swamp and chilling with this little buddy. And then it's like, nope, don't get too comfortable. The worst is yet to come. So that's the
reaction from Luke in that scene is great too, where he's just being such a little bitch, like the whole.
What am I doing here? Oh man, punk! Oh,
you ate my Slim Jim. You ate. And then
Luke's kind of a little bitch.
Like, I can't train him. He's immediately like, oh shit, I got caught. I
can do it. I can do it.
Me? I am a big boy. Like, it's such.
He's a whiny little kid. He's a whiny, bratty adolescent.
And he
kid.
got caught. I love it so much. It's like, oh, that's not me. I can't be a big guy. Like, yeah, it's great.
Which is why it's so great as a story, but it's also why there's a massive logical flaw because his twin is not that. and yet they're like, no, let's go with the problem. We don't have a lot of time.
Nature versus nurture, man.
Whatever. It is what it is. So Ryan, get those final moments from the chat and then we'll wrap it up. I'll say that I also chose the cantina scene, and the only reason is it's a really fun scene, but I think what's great about it is that it reveals so much about this world and it reveals so much about these characters in a really short period of time. And it does so just through their actions, right? We learn so much about Han really quickly, but also how ill-equipped Luke is for the journey that he's on, how naive he is and how sheltered he's been, and that this space world and the space reality, which again, at the time, this wasn't a given, was going to be a little rough and tumble, full of scum and villainy. There's all of these different aliens. Like, it just immerses you so quickly into the environment, and I think it's just so well done for that reason. Like, bunch of alien gangsters hanging around and having a beer. It's freaking great. It's lawless. It's totally wild.
Hanging out, listening to jizz, man.
I think if the Star Destroyer chasing the Tantive didn't like get you somehow, I think that's the scene that got you.
Yeah.
Is the cantina. I think you're totally right.
I want to go back and watch these first three. They're so good.
Really
God
good.
damn it.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Really good.
There's one that the chat mentions a few times, and I got to eat crow on it in a couple aspects because I think the the pod race sequence.
Podcasting is wizard.
Fun. Podcasting, very wizard. Are we cool? Are we cool? Are
we wizard?
I think the pod racing sequence is still really fun, and going through and watching the Gallery series on Disney Plus, which is if you guys haven't been watching it, it's really worth it. It's really interesting. It's super fun. But I gotta eat crow because as much crap as I talk about the visual effects in Phantom Menace, I didn't know that the pod racing sequence was all miniatures, like the whole thing. It's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miniatures. The audience and what are you doing? Okay, she's excited about the prequel. It's finally here.
Well, she was demanding it earlier, and again, a very dominant position.
Yeah. So I gotta eat some crow on that one now that I realize like that wasn't just like pure effects on a late 90s Pentium CD-ROM.
Well,
It wasn't
Ryan,
missed.
give us a few more from the chat, and then we'll just celebrate the fact that it looks like Sarah's going to let Joe live another day because he did what he said he was going to do. A couple more from the chat, and then we will wrap it up for today.
All right, a couple more from the chat. Al Patrickson, who was actually the first in the chat before we even went live. Thank you, Al, for getting in there early. My favorite Star Wars moment is when Ahsoka left the Jedi Order in the finale of Season 5 of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. So some Clone Wars love. Also agree that's a great moment, and just we've talked about how great that character is just overall. Jorge Ramirez, who was the one who said Yoda speech, he did want to say that he meant Empire Strikes Back specifically, was the one that he was talking about. But there's some other Yoda speeches, like at Arceus Lord of Creation, great name, says, I really like Yoda's speech at the end of TLJ. Growth, change, and letting go of the past is a theme of the movie. I guess why that some people didn't like it, but they like it a lot. Let's see. Lisa Mortini says Han and Carbonite. Let's see. Aaron Netsky says, I love every moment featuring Shimmy Skywalker, especially when Anakin leaves home. Some Shimmy love. I like that as well.
Give it for Shmi. All right.
And then let's see. Dennis Ellis agrees with Jack Shipley when he says, I always love the final battle between Luke, Vader, and the Emperor. So much emotion, great song, and Palpatine eating up the scenery. The moment Luke takes off Vader's hand and can see he's following his path. Great stuff.
Yeah, there's one, and this isn't like a.
Oh my God.
It's no, because I'm about to talk about the prequels really quickly. That's why she's back. And this is just like a general prequel thing. I probably should have mentioned. I pop every time any version of Order 66 you want to give me, like whether it's in the actual prequels, whether it's in any of the animated stuff, even Jedi Fallen Order. Order 66 stuff gets me every time. It is always really cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you guys for bringing the Star Wars love and for you guys bringing your Star Wars love. Those are some great moments that I think we can all agree on. Sarah, in particular, again, we've done the good work here today. And Joe, I think we'll be able to see him tomorrow as a result of
She's so excited about all the stuff we talked about. She can no longer do cat things like land.
Yeah, that's okay because she's expressing herself, and that's what we like to see around here. There are links again in the description below for some of our upcoming events, like the Rob Paulson AMA that Danielle is going to be hosting on Thursday. There's links to support Direct Relief as always, and of course, we are continuing to provide links to participate in and support Black Lives Matter. So thank you. And we will see you, I don't know, tomorrow. I guess tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll be here.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Correct.
Maybe.